Late night Monday night, another primetime celebration. It's that meme that we've talked about before. Everyone can see it. It's circulating on Twitter as always. The oh boy, am I excited to watch my favorite team building finally at the end. Nice, we won. Another one of those, exactly what the Eagles like to do to us week in, week out. But I'm not a big fan of the whole Super Bowl revenge thing. It was definitely a rematch of the matchup. Doesn't, take away the fact that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and the Eagles didn't. But the Eagles are 9-1 with the best record in the NFL right now. Welcome into the BGN Instant Reaction Show. I'm Jess Taylor. I'm here as always with Shane Half. Rachelle's behind the glass with us. Shane, it's late. It's 11:29 on the East Coast. This was the longest Monday Night Football game ever, quite possibly one of the ugliest Monday Night Football games ever, but the Eagles somehow managed to come out with a win after, I will say, the defense did anything and everything in the second half, made all the adjustments necessary to make sure that the Birds could come out with a win tonight.
Yeah, are we sure this wasn't a Thursday night game? Because this looked a lot more like teams playing on 5 days rest than 15 days rest.
Right?
Wow, what a game.
2 teams coming off the bye. That's only Andy Reid's 4th loss ever coming off a bye. He statistically has the best record of any head coach in games coming out of a bye week. I remember that from his time being here and, being like, oh, the bye, that's, looking at the schedule, that's a dub coming out. And it always was. That was just his 4th. I think it said he was 18-3. Now 18-4 coming out the bye week.
Yeah, I saw a different one earlier this week. I think it was like 21-4 or something like that.
Whatever. They showed it before the game. I can't remember for the life of me what the numbers were. It was a lot of wins, not very many losses. Okay.
Yeah, I tweeted something earlier this week about, I said, fun fact, Andy Reid has lost 4 games coming off the bye, and Nick Sirianni has never lost a game coming off of a bye. Let's not talk about sample size. I'm here to tell you tonight, Nick Sirianni has still never lost a game coming off of the bye.
That's all you need to know.
That's
all you need to know. Why don't we with that? Why don't we start there in the coaching realm? Because I feel like that's where my frustrations are at the moment. It's where they kind of resided for the duration of the game. We can get into the special team situation. We can get into all the, the individual kind of issues and pinpoint problems that we had throughout the game. It was an ugly game across the board. Obviously, the weather probably played a factor on both sides of the ball. The officiating was horrific on both sides of the ball. I thought there were bad calls each way. Josh Sweat was held aggressively on the first touchdown for the Chiefs. They got away with that call, got their touchdown. Olamide Zaccheaus, that was a hold. That was absolutely a missed call on the touchdown on the other end. So I thought there were things kind of, you like a game where you forget the officials were there, and that was not the case tonight. But let's start with the coaching aspect. One coordinator had their ass handed to them in the first half and made the correct adjustments in the second half. The other one, we are at, what is it, week 11? Is it technically week 11? Was that the end of week 11?
Yes.
Okay, we're at week 11, and we are still concerned about the offensive play calling.
Yeah, I haven't been concerned about the offensive play calling until tonight. And tonight, I would have fired, what's his name? Oh my gosh. It's too late. Brian Johnson. I would have fired Brian Johnson on the sideline in the third quarter when he decided on 3rd and 1 to go in the shotgun and hand the football off. Like, you literally haven't converted a third down all night. You get into a 3rd and 1. You have a play that converts 95% of the time. Call the play. Like, just call the play. And they don't, and you get stopped, and you punt it, and your defense gets another 3 and out, and then you get back to a 3rd and 1, and this time you call it, and what do you know? You convert, you end up going and scoring a touchdown. Man, the offense was brutal in this game. Brian Johnson was atrocious in this game. You get down on the goal line, you're backed up inside the 10, and you call a wide receiver screen to Devonta Smith, which has never worked. and it doesn't work. And so 2nd and 10, let's dial up a wide receiver screen to Julio Jones. You know, that speedy guy that is out there running laps around people? Let's do that. And then when that doesn't work and we punt, let's open the next drive with back-to-back screens again. Like, Brian Johnson was absolutely horrendous in this game. I don't know if he felt he was limited by Jalen Hurts, which is certainly valid because Jalen Hurts, that's probably the worst game Jalen Hurts has played since 2021. Like, there might be a worse one in there I'm not thinking of. It's the worst game I remember Hurts playing in a long time. The offense was just in a bad place. And part of your job as an offensive coordinator is when things aren't going right, you're getting beat up front, your quarterback is skittish in the pocket, you have to have an answer. And Brian Johnson had no answers tonight. None.
I think that honestly, the Philadelphia Eagles would have been better off play calling wise if they just asked Twitter for a bunch of plays and put them in a hat and let Brian Johnson pick them out and read them to Jalen Hurts. I think that would have been a more efficient way to call this football game than whatever the hell just happened. And here's the thing, like, the Kansas City defense, like, they are the best defense in the NFL right now. They are an unbelievable defense and they are playing out of their minds. And honestly, they're the reason that the Kansas City Chiefs have the record that they do today, because their offense has mightily struggled. Obviously, you have a guy like Travis Kelce and some other guys who can be considered weapons at times. But when you think about what they've had over the last couple of years and look at it today on Kansas City's offense, it's not the star power that they're used to. And, you know, Patrick Mahomes is out here kind of throwing to no one a little bit. And they have had this very similar type struggles to the Eagles. They struggled a lot in the red zone early on. They have some issues with drops. They have some other things that they're kind of struggling with. Their defense has been the reason that they have the record that they do to date. I mean, even think about their last game before the bye when they played in Germany and they win. They couldn't score points in the second half. They give up 14. They win on a scoop and score, fumble recovery for a touchdown. So, you knew going in that this defense was going to be tough, but you expect your offensive line to play way better than they did. You expect your quarterback to play a little bit better, and you expect your offensive coordinator to pull his head out of his butt a little bit for some of this. Obviously, Jalen Hurts didn't look great, but he made some crucial plays when he needed to. Obviously, that ball at the end to Devontae Smith to set up the touchdown, but easily best play of the game for Jalen, came at the perfect time. There were a lot of, I think, you used the word skittish. And I think the entire offense and each player almost looked skittish the whole game.
Yeah. Even the Devontae pass, that should have been a touchdown. Hurts underthrew that, and Devontae did a really good job of adjusting to it. It wasn't a good game for Jalen Hurts. And it wasn't a good game for Jalen Hurts. It wasn't a particularly good rushing day. I mean, DeAndre Swift had 76 yards and a touchdown. The stats will look good. As a team, they rushed for 114 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2 of them are QB sneaks on the one of them coming from that underthrown ball to Devontae Smith. But the run game wasn't dominating. The offensive line was really struggling at times. Jalen Hurts was really struggling in this game. And the defense steps up. And that's what good teams have to do. Everyone will not always play their A game. And tonight, the offense didn't even play their D game. It was bad. The Eagles defense allowed 22.8 yards per possession in the second half to the Chiefs. They forced a turnover and they shut them out. And they let the Eagles offense limp their way back into the game. Down 17-7. They win 21-7. And sure, should the Chiefs have scored at the end of the game? Absolutely. Dropped pass that should have been a touchdown. They drop what should have been a 4th and 25 conversion that I would be furious about if it happened, because I don't have a clue what that coverage was. But they didn't. And they are able to close out the game. And that's encouraging. We just watched what the Cowboys did 2 weeks ago to this defense. Mm-hmm. And a Cowboys defense that only had one receiving threat, one major threat. The guy almost got 200 yards. Travis Kelce, 7 receptions, 44 yards, and a touchdown. They did a great job against Kelce.
They did.
And Kelce had one drop. It wasn't like a 50-yard touchdown drop or anything. Like, he was contained all game, and they forced the Chiefs to go to these other receivers that you're not as concerned about because they are not as good. They don't have Tyreek Hill. They don't have a good second option. And so I thought the Eagles defense approached the game right, and the pass rush wasn't able to do a lot. They got pressure. They just weren't able to get home. But the defense handled their business, and you take the drops where you could get them. Offenses make mistakes. Sometimes you just take it, and the defense played great in this game. That's the story of this game for me.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, and you said it. In the second half, the Chiefs went punt, punt, fumble, punt, punt, turn the ball over on downs, and they allowed the offense to figure themselves out enough to be able to win this game. I don't think anybody thought this was going to be a blowout one way or another. I think everyone, who watches the NFL routinely assumed this was going to be a relatively close game here. And, it was going to be a sort of down to the wire, come down to a, 4th and 25 kind of situation with a minute and a half left to see, what's going to happen. Offensively, I think this comment, is a good point. We were talking about it, here watching the game at the end as well, in some of those screen situations or some of those, when you're trying to get the ball down the field a little bit, when you're at a 3rd and 9 and trying to come up with the right play call, those are the times where Dallas Goedert is such a big part, because it's not like, I think with the receivers and with the running backs, they have such nice depth and such a good enough rotation that, like, when you lost Quez for a little bit, Olamide Zaccheaus really stepped up and you were able to utilize him a little bit. And it was sort of a seamless transition there. Some days it's Devontae, some days it's AJ, there's a lot going on there. Dallas Goedert is really all you have from an effective tight end perspective.
Yeah.
It's a hole.
Yeah. And then Grant Calcaterra, coming off of like missing 3 games with injury, immediately gets injured again. And you're down to Jack Stoll, who, hey, he was targeted twice, had a 3-yard reception. Where you really miss, yeah, this is it exactly. 100%. Comment here on YouTube. You really miss Goedert in the run blocking. Totally. But Stoll is a good run blocker. It's that dual threat. You don't have that dual threat anywhere else. And the Eagles chose to go 4 wide receivers a lot in this game. And I liked that, either 4 wide receivers or 2 running backs. And I think you're going to see that a lot more. They don't think they have a tight end that they really trust to put in there and use the way that they use Goedert. And so that's probably what you're going to see going forward. Now, hopefully it looks better. Hopefully Hurts doesn't look as skittish. You're not playing in the rain, all of those things.
Right.
And I think that'll get better. Steve Spagnuolo is a very good defensive coordinator.
Very good.
And he pushes the right buttons with blitzes all the time. And the Eagles have a very good, very well-coached offensive line. And they were running all kinds of games up front that were getting guys in advantageous situations. And I think that rattled Hurts early. Hurts was sacked 5 times in the first half. He wasn't sacked in the second half. He was 9 of 15 passing in the second half. So clean it up a little bit. It was still a struggle to move the football. But I think this was just a case of Hurts got hit a lot early. You're coming off of that bye. Your knee was feeling good. Now maybe it's not feeling so good. And you got a little rattled.
Yep.
But they still managed to put up 2 scores. And when it matters most, they go drive down in 6 minutes and they win. They put a score up. They give the defense a chance to win this game for them to close it out. And that's the thing about Hurts in the offense. Like, you don't worry about it snowballing. With so many other quarterbacks, you would worry about that first half totally snowballing. And I'm not saying the second half was good. They did not implode. And we have seen teams, very good teams, a team the Eagles are about to play next week, just fully implode in games.
Yes.
Talking about the Bills. The Eagles just don't let that happen.
They don't. They don't. They've managed to keep everything very, very contained and very sort of focused on the task at hand, the drive at hand. They don't let, and something Nick Sirianni has talked about a lot in in the past, especially in recent press conferences, it's just talking about how everyone on this team really does have a short memory, and they don't let whatever happened on the previous drive they don't let that impact how they go out for the next one. And I think that's, as you said, with especially like you see it with the Bills, and you see how they kind of fall apart. You see how teams like the Jets or the Giants or the Commanders tend to fall apart and snowball when those things start to happen. The Eagles don't allow that to. And that's one of those, we talked a lot last year about, because we had nothing else to talk about when the Eagles were, 9-1 and blowing teams out left and right. We talked a lot about, the intangibles that Jalen Hurts has. And I think especially, it's intangibles from a lot of the players on this team, but Jalen Hurts, especially kind of having the up and down year that he's had, the injury bugging him, the turnovers being such a problem, him being able to do that and still lead them down the field for multiple scores to get this win. It's one of those things that it just can't be understated how important that is to this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, as frustrating, like I said right after the game, this was the most, I don't even remember how I worded it. It was the most frustrating win, or that's right. I said it was the most miserable win I've ever watched. Like, just felt miserable the whole game. But at the end of the day, 9-1, best record in the NFL. This was a huge game, and there's bigger games coming. Cowboys again, the Seahawks, the 49ers, these NFC teams. There's bigger games on the horizon, but this is a huge win because you're in that 5-game stretch where I said at the end of the last post-game show, win 3 of the 5, go 3-2, and you're probably a 14-3 seed with the 1 team. This is the toughest team in this stretch. Now, there's a couple really tough ones still coming up. They need to continue to win. But this win is huge for playoff positioning, despite how miserable it felt at times, despite how disjointed it looked offensively. And it's really important to see, coming out of the bye, that the defense was just able to handle a clear number 1 receiving threat. And that's the thing we'll talk about the offense and how bad it was. I'm really encouraged by what the defense did, and I'm going to try to channel that throughout the next week.
Yeah, smart. And that's so true. We were talking throughout the game, kind of, love that they play the Giants, twice in the last 3 or 4 games of the season here. That's but what it's going to come down to is, because these teams in the NFC are playing so well, because the 49ers seemingly are back on track, because Dallas hasn't lost many games, because the Lions are playing so well, the Eagles do really need to win these games when they can. I don't care how they do it. They need to keep stacking these wins, because it's, they're not going to be the clear number 1 seed in the NFC if they can't continue to win. And that sounds obvious, but so many of these other NFC teams that are at the top of their division, and hell, Dallas isn't even at the top of their division, but they're just winning a lot of games. It's going to come down to the wire on the NFC seeding. And, you can jump from the 1 seed to a wild card team really fast in this NFC right now.
Yeah. And so if we look at it, if we want to play the schedule game, we look at right now, the Eagles are 9-1. The Cowboys and the 49ers are both 7-3. So you're up 2 games over each of them. Now you play both of them.
Yes.
So if you win out except for those 2 games, and they all win out except for those games, then you're in a big mess of a tie. But when you go look at the remaining strength of schedule, who teams have left, it's not really an easy road for any of these teams. The 49ers have the Eagles left. They have the Seahawks twice. They have the Ravens. They have the 11th hardest strength of schedule remaining. The Cowboys are at number 2. They've got the 2nd hardest schedule remaining. Eagles, Lions, Dolphins, Seahawks, Bills. And then the Eagles are all the way down at number 25. And so we know the Eagles schedule. The other 3 games are the Giants twice and the Cardinals, like teams that are legitimately in contention for the number 1 overall pick. Now, the Cardinals are feisty again with Kyler Murray back, but of the 3 teams,
breaks off of them and Jonathan Gannon's stupid face comes back here. Oh,
yeah.
God.
Can you imagine the meltdown Twitter will be in if they lost that game and it cost the Eagles the 1 seed? But the point being, like, Eagles fans are very familiar with how difficult their schedule is. They've got a 2-game lead right now over 2 teams that have significantly harder schedules remaining. So the road's paved. It's right there to go take, and it starts next week with the win against the Bills.
Yeah. Yeah, a win against the Bills would be absolutely huge. And, Josh Allen is also turning the ball over at an alarming rate. So if the Eagles can capitalize on a little bit of that, that would be supremely helpful. Obviously, playing at home as well is always a good thing to do in that. All right, let's check in on Twitter and see, who we're firing today and how angry people are. I'm sure Rachel has found some great tweets in here, because as I'm looking at it, there are 70 responses. So
yeah,
I'm sure
keep on timing.
Yeah,
as Rachel jumps in, let me answer this, because Patrick on YouTube asked about the Lions being 8-2, and I totally forgot about the Lions, because in my head I have down the Lions losing this week, but the Bears blew that game. So the Lions also have a more difficult schedule. Theirs ranks 18th. They have the Cowboys, the Vikings twice, the Saints, and the Broncos are listed as their toughest opponents left. So the Lions are legitimately the bigger threat to the 1 seed from the Eagles than the Cowboys or the 49ers, in my opinion.
Yeah. Obviously, they have the 1 game up on them. And then, I think it's interesting because I know, the Vikings have gotten back on track. It's also a divisional matchup for them, and we talk about it all the time. Records go out the window when you're playing a division rival. And then, with the Broncos are starting to figure it out a little bit. They're making a little bit of noise. Obviously, the Saints are kind of irrelevant, but I mean, I say that, but like almost not really, because the NFC South is so bad that a team does have to win that division and go to the playoffs. That, like, I can say the Saints are irrelevant, but also they're really not, because that division is so bad. They probably are still in contention to possibly win it if they figure a couple things out. So none of those games are necessarily, I mean, record-wise maybe, but they could all end up being very competitive for them. So, but regardless, it's still important, as we have said, for the Eagles to just handle what they need to handle and win as many games as possible, because it's going to be tight up there.
Yeah.
Before I get into like the tweets and everything, I wanted to mention Kevin Byard. Somebody just mentioned that as well right here. So shout out to him for getting his first pick as an Eagle. Also, Bradley Roby coming back and punching out the ball from, I think that was Travis Kelce. And then I don't know who recovered. I think it was Morrow. Nicholas Morrow.
Yeah, it was Nicholas Morrow fell on it.
So 2 shout outs for both of them coming in clutch with huge plays. Of course, the only person on here getting fired, to no surprise, Brian Johnson. But most of the other tweets that I'm seeing so far are pretty much just like finding a way to win. Somebody said Gannon could never just keep winning. Roller coaster at all times. Devontae saved us. So shout out to him for coming up, stepping up when he needed to. Like you guys mentioned, AJ Brown was kind of quiet today, but it didn't matter. I mean, it didn't matter, but it didn't matter to see Devontae Smith be able to step up and have a big performance, because he has been kind of quiet, throughout the season. That was nice to see him getting a little bit of the shine. Redemption, they like broke it up into 3 different words. Glad it's over, worried about the offense, and wow, we won, ? So yeah.
Wow, we won, ? is kind of where I'm at. Yeah. I can't. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do this every single time?
Yes.
Time? Yeah. It was coming. Yeah. I forgot all about it until I just saw this. If I'm being honest, I forgot it had happened.
I mean,
I didn't even see the comment. I was looking up a stat. I thought you were saying, "Are we gonna do this like sweating out every game?"
Oh, well,
yeah. So when I saw the whole Hurts Brown interaction on the sideline, I said, AJ upset on the sideline, Eagles by 20.
I saw that. That was good.
Yeah, I mean, you could see exactly what they were saying. Jalen was going, you were supposed to be doing this. And he's like, yeah, but I had a step on him. So I went that way. And he's like, just keep going that way. I thought that's like the conversation that anybody would have.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same conversation that Patrick Mahomes was having on the sideline as well.
Yeah.
But like, no one cares.
I think Patrick Mahomes was having some different conversations on the sideline, if I'm being honest.
Patrick Mahomes needs to stop whining
Right.
all the time. I've really had enough. I've had enough. It's enough. I think we get it. I understand. You are the best quarterback in the NFL. No one's going to fight you on that. No one's arguing with you. Just relax. Okay. It's not my fault your GM traded all your weapons away or let them go. That's not my problem.
Yeah.
It's not the referee's problem either. Go have that conversation with someone else. That's you signed that big contract to stay there forever and ever and ever. That's not my problem. Stop whining.
Pretty much.
I got nothing. Just stop.
Can I show you my favorite Mahomes moment from the game?
Yeah.
This was my favorite moment from the whole game. So right after we get, dropped touchdown, dropped 4th and 25 conversion that I'm so glad got dropped and I didn't have to be furious about it. This is what happened when Mahomes walked off the sideline. He's going to be nice, make a fan's day, toss him the glove, and they drop it. Like, Mahomes receivers can't catch, and then he comes off the sideline and tosses that dude the glove, and he can't catch either.
If I'm Patrick in that moment, I pick him up and I smack the hell out of him with that glove. Whichever person he tried to throw it to, I grabbed that and I just smacked that person right across the face with that.
I might have picked the glove up and acted like I was going to hand it to him and then tossed it in that trash can that's right there.
That's so.
So here's my concern. Last year, the offense was so good it was like you get the ball back with 9 minutes and a touchdown lead and the game's over. We're going to run the rest of the clock out. 4 weeks ago against the Jets, Eagles get the ball up with 4:43 left, and we all know what happens, right? Throw the interception, end up losing the game. 2 weeks ago against the Cowboys, they get the ball back. What was it? They were up by 5 with 1:17 left, and they go 3 and out, and Dallas is right on the goal line with a chance to win the game. Tonight, they get the ball back up by 4 with 5 minutes left on the 44-yard line, and they're not even able to get a field goal. They end up moving backwards, and they end up punting the ball back. It's 3 of the last 4 weeks. The offense has had the ball with a lead with 5 or 6 or less minutes left, and they've been unable to put that game away. Now, the defense has come up clutch in those situations, 2 of the 3. I really need the Eagles offense to be able to end the game. I don't know why the 4-minute drill is just gone now. I don't know why they can't execute that, but that is a concern. You don't want to be in the business of giving Patrick Mahomes the ball up less than a touchdown with 4 minutes left. That's generally not going to end well for you, or Dak Prescott for that matter. That's my bigger concern than how the first part of the game looked. That happened. The Eagles offense hasn't looked like that this season. We can set that aside and say Spags had a great game plan. You're in the rain. It just wasn't clicking. Whatever. I've seen 9 other games where it looked good. 8 other games where it looked good. But this is becoming a pattern of concern. So that's my biggest concern for the offense moving forward is, are they going to be able to end these games when they get the chance?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of what we talked about in the beginning of the year, right? It was we can attribute it to this, or we can attribute it to that, or we can, there's a lot of different things that we didn't have the sample size at that point. We had a lot of different things that we could have attributed it to. And, eventually we got to week 4 or 5 and said, okay, when do we stop attributing this to growing pains, new coordinators, getting used to all the things, no preseason, all these different things, and say, okay, what if this is just what they are? And it's just what they are, which is concerning. I don't really have an answer for you on how we go forward from here. Just keep sweating it out until the clock hits 0 every week, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely correct. And I'm totally with you there that it is definitely a concern, because last year we didn't have this concern. You get the ball, Jalen gets the ball with, however much time left to go down and put a game away, win a game. And you're like, I'll sit back and put my feet up and watch it happen. You know, this is not quite that.
Yeah. Hopefully they get that figured out by the playoffs. Hopefully the new defense is here to stay and we can get the old offense back and then we can just roll through the rest of the schedule. But regardless, as stressful as it is, I would rather be de-stressing on a victory podcast at midnight than a defeat podcast. So there is that.
There's absolutely that. I also, when we've talked about this, if they blow games, especially in like if I was a Chiefs fan currently, and I am sitting here after losing that game potentially, I'm not sleeping tonight. Like I'm getting a shit night's sleep. I'm not really sleeping. I'm up at 3 a.m. thinking to myself, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. And it's just a miserable experience. I am so glad that I don't have to do that tonight because I could have been there. And I'm really thankful. I'm with Chris on this one. How do I remove the bubble screens and third and long quarterback sneaks from the playbook? The quarterback draws on 3rd and 9 have got to go. Got to go.
Yeah.
This is actually, I am not typically a like annoyed after a win kind of gal. This whole season I've been like, don't be miserable. Like you know me. Don't be miserable over a win. Like don't be that person. This is the most like least excited I've been after a win because it was just so ugly.
Yeah, which is crazy because like the Chiefs are the class of the AFC, like
right.
top 5 defense, top 5 offense, and yet it just feels a little frustrating if we're being honest. But still, I'm still, as we've gone through the podcast, I've become less frustrated and just more happy with it. A lot of times, like when I go watch the film later, like a loss, like you can watch the film of a loss and be like, you know, it really wasn't that bad. There was a few bad breaks, whatever. Sometimes you watch the film of a win and you're just like,
how the hell did they do that?
We'll see where I'm at by the time I do my Wednesday podcast with Johnny. Hopefully I've got a feeling I'm going to be back a little more to that E phase, yeah. But you know, for now a win's a win. Until the all 22 comes out, I'm going to celebrate it.
Well, I think we're going to look at this last comment that just came in because it's midnight here on the East Coast and we're going to wrap it up with this one. So 9-1, woohoo, absolutely. But this one, these people in Kansas City got to wake up and go to work tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving, losers. I'm in. I'm so in. We're all fine. You know what? I'm happy now. That has made me happy. And that's it. I think we wrap there because
the only thing that can make Thanksgiving better now is if we can go watch the Commanders beat the Cowboys and watch the Packers beat the Lions. That would make it the best Thanksgiving ever.
I would love that. That would be a beautiful time. Let's all hope for that. And then the Eagles are going to kick the crap out of the Bills on Sunday.
Yes.
And it'll be a thrilling experience for all. And then it's time for Christmas for those who celebrate, of course. But we're going to wrap it there. It is late. We need everybody to go to bed. It would be beautiful. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank you so much for jumping on with us this late after this late Monday night game to celebrate a win. Make sure you're following, subscribed everywhere. Shane's going to have stuff coming out this week. I'll have stuff coming out this week. There'll be plenty coming out from everybody on Bleeding Green Nation. As always, make sure you're subscribed anywhere you get your podcast. 5-star rating, written review, leave the whole thing. We love it. We love reading it, seeing it, the whole thing. But thank you again for joining us on behalf of myself, Shane, and Rachel. Thank you so much for hopping on this late hour. Go Birds, and we will talk to you next week.
Go Birds.